Right?
So you don't eat any byproducts either. Are you a vegan?
Yeah.
So no byproducts, no milk, no cheese.
Yeah, no animal products. And the reason for that is because I was vegetarian for a short while, and you know, I kind of said it was because I don't want animals to be slaughtered, to be harmed.
Yeah, but
For-
they lay an egg for a reason. You know,
Yeah.
that's part of their natural, ability to do that. But why don't you eat an egg?
It's true. Yeah.
You know, cheese is, if you don't milk a cow, it will die. So you have to milk the cow.
Yeah.
Otherwise, its bladder will just burst. Isn't that,
Yeah.
So the
they're good questions.
byproducts aren't really the problem.
Yeah, they're good questions.
Why is being done?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is with eggs, for example, for every female chick born, there is a male chick. And the male ones don't lay eggs, and they're not the same breed as chickens used for meat. So there might be some footage on here at some point of chickens, baby chicks going into a gigantic blender, what they call in the industry a macerator. You saw that one? That's eggs. It's in free range.
Oh, I see. They're already, they're not really, they're actually fertilised eggs. Is that what you're saying?
They're-
They go through
No, they're the males. They're seen as waste products because they're sorted out from the females at birth, and because the males aren't going to make the business any money, they get put into a macerator at a day old, right? And so I totally see where you're coming from. I used to have this idea of, well, chickens just lay eggs, right? Cows just give milk. But in all of these industries, these are ideas of kind of happy chickens just laying eggs that we've been fed by these industries. But what we're actually paying for when we pay for eggs is practices like this. Of course they're not going to show it to us.
Where is this come from?
Is that in Australia?
So all of this footage is Australian, and this especially is,
Disgusting.
well, this is free range eggs. Any eggs we can buy from the supermarket, even the local eggs down the road. People,
You only eat free range eggs.
we have got
Oh my God.
our chickens most likely from these hatcheries. And with cows, milk for example, why does a human produce milk?
Sustenance for the
To feed a child. And same with, like pigs, same with gorillas, same with giraffes. All mammals produce milk for their young. So why do cows produce milk? Well, of course, for their calves as well.
For the calves. But if you don't milk them, they get quite ill. But
Yeah.
they don't have calves requiring milk all the time.
They, well, actually, they.
Order for them to like get them up. Yeah. So they impregnate them and then I don't know what they do with the calves, but that's what's going on.
So it's something called artificial insemination,
Yeah.
where they harvest the semen from the bull. I'm not going to use too brutal terms, but I'm sure you guys can use your imagination.
I did bio.
Right. They freeze the semen, and then when a cow is fertile,
Yeah.
they'll insert their hand through the anus,
Yeah.
grab the cervix, and using a catheter forcibly inseminate the cow using, the bull semen. And so when that cow has that calf, the calf drinks just the first round of milk with colostrum in it that is necessary, but then it gets separated because that milk's for us.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I see. Oh.
So, yeah, the cow might, I'm not sure about die, but definitely the calf would drink that milk. That's why the cow produces it. And of course, over years and years of breeding them and, selectively breeding these cows, we're breeding them for more and more and more milk. So even the cows that we do milk dry every single day, they still get these udder infections. About 10% of all cows, I believe, get an infection called mastitis, which causes redness and swelling and all this really painful. So really, the existence of these cows is miserable. And in meat, we're birthing a cow, we're raising it, we're slaughtering it. But in dairy, we're birthing a cow. If it's a female, we're raising it until it's just old enough so we can impregnate it. It has its baby. We separate the calf and mother, milk it dry, and then impregnate it again. It's about a 1 year period for this
There's a lot of
cycle.
cows doing that with not much milk, is there?
Exactly.
My God.
And we just don't see it, right? It's behind closed doors. And so we do that about 5 times over the course of its life cycle.
Yeah.
And then a cow on average has a lifespan of about 20 to 30 years. But at 5 years, their milk production starts to decline after this intensive
Right.
method of milking. And so they get sent to just the same slaughterhouse that all the other cows do. And so in reality, not only is dairy and eggs, these things, just as bad as the meat industry, but they're even worse because they're using these animals their whole
How
life.
did you get this footage?
Most of this footage comes as a result of undercover investigation.
I was going to say, I mean, how did you get into these places to do this?
Yeah, you don't think the farmers would exactly
No.
want their
Promote this.
consumers seeing it. Exactly. But this is standard practice. What farmers promote is this image that we all have in our heads of a happy cow in a field.
That's, you know how they bleed, that one at the top is bleeding it? That's halal.
Yeah,
Isn't that
they
what
bleed
they,
them out.
you know how they bleed them?
That's actually RSPCA approved slaughter.
That's
standard
disgusting,
practice.
isn't it? They bleed them.
Yeah, well, how else are we
But
going to
isn't
kill the
that
cows?
halal? If you don't do it that way, then the Muslims won't eat any beef. Isn't that halal? Look, it's bleeding them from...
It's actually not halal.
Isn't it?
No.
Oh, I thought because you know it's an RSPCA, look at this.
Right. The RSPCA are approving it. It's a good question.
Yeah, if they say they stand for animal rights, then obviously if they stand for that, they're saying that's animal
But even
rights.
putting the
They
chicks
don't
in
stand
the-
for animal rights, unfortunately. The RSPCA,
They approve this. The RSPCA is approving all this.
yeah,
And in putting little ducklings in the grinder.
that's an RSPCA approved practice.
Oh my God, that's disgusting. Well, you should donate to the RSPCA then.
Fortunately, there are plenty of organisations that actually do promote animal rights. But in terms of the RSPCA, what they tend to specialise more in is kind of putting their stamp onto pieces of meat in the grocery store and making consumers feel good about themselves. So these chickens and cows, unfortunately, don't know they're RSPCA approved chickens and cows. They don't know they're being RSPCA approved put into a macerator, or they don't know they're being RSPCA approved slaughtered. And so they're suffering just as much as the rest of them. And if that's our best practices,
Yeah, that's bad, isn't it?
I couldn't even imagine our worst.
Yeah, can't.
Because already this is suffering beyond anything I've ever been through. It's suffering beyond anything I've ever experienced or seen.
It's disgusting.
But we're paying for it almost on a daily basis. At least I was. Right? The most disgusting thing, we can even think of is something that is simply a thoughtless, everyday decision for us.
I'm not laughing because of that. It's like, my God, things to know that
It's massive.
But
So
it is hard to tell people not to eat meat. That's you've got a big thing on your hands. But look, if you can convert a few people, I suppose you've done your job. You've done something.
well, the thing is, I don't need to even tell people to not eat meat, because when people see this footage,
Yeah. I know.
And
It does put you off. It does put you off.
this is the conclusion that people come to. They say, well, I'm eating less meat. That's what they might say.
Yeah.
I'll come up, I'm eating less meat, or I only buy human. And I'm like, I didn't say anything about your meat consumption.
Yeah.
We're just looking at standard practice slaughter right here. We're looking at RSPCA approved practices. What if I was out here promoting the RSPCA? It sounds ridiculous, because these animals are clearly suffering horribly.
Yeah.
And I know when we think about veganism, at least when I did, it was very intimidating being quite a big meat eater, right? Yeah. But so many people, I didn't understand how hard veganism was until I went vegan.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that for the reasons you think I'm saying that for. I'm saying that because when I went vegan, all of a sudden everyone was letting me know how hard it was to be vegan. Everyone that's never tried being vegan.
It is hard. I can
It
imagine.
wasn't.
Oh, really?
It was
Was
easy.
it?
One of the easiest things I've ever done that has prevented the most animals from suffering and being slaughtered. How much effort will we go to save a life?
Yeah.
Think about it. If it was your cat,
Are we still saving a life? So if I went vegan, would that animal still survive?
yeah. So when you go vegan, we're reducing our demand or removing our demand
Marginally.
marginally to the extent that we do. But it's a little more than we think, because over the course of our lives, we're probably going to eat hundreds of animals, at least, right? So if we save one animal by the time we get to 60 years old, and it was a cat in a tree, we'd be telling that story every year, right? That would be one of our biggest achievements. So over the course of our lives, we're removing the demand for hundreds of animals. And right now, depending on what decision you guys make, right now, there might be a cow or a pig or a chicken being born into one of these places, a factory farm or a slaughterhouse. And it might be destined for your dinner plate if you make that decision. But one less animal on our dinner plate means one less being bred into this cruel existence of suffering.